Well, we could see a stimulus bill as early as tomorrow on Monday. And President Trump throws his hat into the ring once again and says we need to pass direct stimulus checks to the American people. All of that and more we will bring you in a moment. But first, I want to start with a story. Tell you a story about a woman. Her name is Olivia Stewart, 56 years old. She's an immigrant from Jamaica, naturalized in the United States, worked part-time as a sous chef at a cafeteria at a Jewish school in Philadelphia. And she was earning just $16 an hour, not much more than, frankly, what a lot of states are trying to get to minimum wage. Florida just passed their $15 an hour minimum wage. Roughly 25 hours a week. That's all they would give her. So 25 hours a week at $16 an hour. But when the pandemic hit, the schools shut down, she was laid off. Fired, gone. That's it. That's her job. Done. So then Ms. Stewart applied for pandemic unemployment assistance, of course, which runs out in just a few weeks, the PUA, and she began receiving $234 a week. It was not quite enough to cover her $650 in rent that she had to pay for, $200 electric bill. And of course, as you're entering in these darker, colder months in Philadelphia, it can get very expensive. I know. I lived in Philadelphia and the heating bills can be extraordinary. $200 for an internet bill for the house that she shares with her 12-year-old daughter, her retired mother, and her sister, who has a disability that prevents her from working just to make ends meet. So Mrs. Stewart then started dipping into her savings to try to start paying some bills. And of course, her daughter at home doing virtual learning, so she had to keep the internet running in order for her daughter to be able to do school. Then on October 6th, she got a notice in the mail saying that Pennsylvania's unemployment insurance vendor had overpaid her by accident. The overpayment included funds from the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program and from a $600 federal supplemental unemployment insurance. That $600 a week that everyone was receiving? In total, she was told that she would have to now pay back $8,000. $8,000 that she doesn't have. And guess what? Olivia is not alone. Millions of people across the country are now receiving similar letters telling them that they have to pay this pandemic unemployment assistance money back. And it's gone. Where did it go? It went to groceries. It went to pay rent. It didn't go to buy PlayStations. She, like so many millions of Americans right now, are receiving this bill. In fact, one of the members of our team, the girlfriend, exact same thing happened. David, his girlfriend received a very similar letter. Totally different state. This is what Americans are facing. And people signing up for this pandemic unemployment assistance think that they're going to be taken care of for at least a little while. And guess what? It runs out in just a few weeks anyway. This is the epidemic that we're dealing with right now in the United States. And Congress home for a few days, not back until Tuesday, as we hit this deadline on the 18th of December when everything is about to shut down. And these programs run out and millions of people facing eviction. Student loan deferrals are up. The list goes on. So all weekend, it looks like the Senate was on the phone. This bipartisan group of 8 senators have been working tirelessly to try to get this thing through. Again, why in the world did we wait until December to get this through? Who knows? You're smarter than me in this, if you can figure that one out. They had all summer to figure this out. So there are some big pieces of the stimulus plan unfolding tonight. And they're back on the phone as we speak right now in meetings on this Sunday evening. Senator Joe Manchin, who's one of the members of that gang of 8 who's been working on this plan, that $908 billion plan, spoke to Chris Wallace just a short time ago and said that we will see a bill tomorrow, because all we've gotten so far is just some random notes about what might be in this thing. We have no finalized bill. Tomorrow, he is certain that we would actually see a stimulus bill.
Is the Gang of Eight's compromise, $908 billion, is that plan now dead? And is there a chance that Congress may leave town for the year without passing any COVID relief at all?
Well, first of all, Chris, the plan is alive and well, and there's no way that we're going to leave Washington without taking care of the emergency needs of our people. And that's all over our country, in my state of West Virginia, too. They're all hurting everywhere.
All right, so you're not leaving town. We got this. You will not leave town until you pass some kind of stimulus plan. You heard it right here. Do you believe that that's going to be the case? Do you believe that they're going to do that? That they wouldn't go home? I mean, there's going to be a revolt in this country if that happens. That these guys get to go back to their cushy houses in their states, have their big gala parties. You know, they're holding 25 parties, Christmas parties at the White House over the month of December. Yeah, they can open all the bottles of champagne they want at the White House. These senators can go back and have their big dinners in West Virginia and all their other states while you suffer. And while people like Olivia Stewart are receiving letters in the mail saying that they overpaid their pandemic unemployment assistance, which has now been spent on bills, and you've got to pay it back. So Bernie Sanders not giving up on making sure that people get direct stimulus checks, and is prepared, as he mentions in this speech that he gave on the Senate floor. He said, look, I'm not one of those senators that's just going to hold everything up, make everyone miss their vacations in order to prove a point. He said, I'm not one of those guys. He said, but I will make sure that I will hold it up. This government funding bill, I will hold it up unless there are direct stimulus payments to the American people in it. And I will keep us here, and we will work through Christmas. And I wanted to say, go Bernie. Here he is on the Senate floor.
That we must include in any legislation that is passed a direct payment of $1,200 for adults and $500 for kids. We must not leave Washington unless we do that. And next week, I am going to do everything that I can to make sure that that happens. We will not leave Washington unless we make certain that millions of families have the economic assistance that they need. So we are working on bipartisan legislation, and Senator Hawley has done a very, very good job on this, and proud to yield the floor to him.
So he, along with Josh Hawley, of course, the senator from Missouri, he's a Republican. They've been working on this bipartisan legislation, but he is once again saying, look, I will hold stuff up. I'm going to hold this chamber hostage unless we get a stimulus package that includes direct stimulus checks to the American people. And then, of all people, today, President Trump, who was yesterday was at the Army-Navy game down there in Washington, between Army and Navy. Navy lost brutally, I think 15-0. But the president was asked by Fox and Friends about stimulus. You know, they asked him a whole series of questions about the election. He's not given up on the fights. He's got lawsuits, etc. He talked about funding the military and so forth. But he ended up then also talking about how he wants more money in the stimulus than is currently being discussed. He says, even though all this remains deadlocked, he said that he's pushing very hard to get a deal done, and he criticized Democrats.
So fast, they give us very little time.
For coming to the table.
But we caught them, as you know, it's fraudulent, dropping ballots, doing so many things nobody can even believe it. Dead people voting, and all far greater than the number of votes we need. The election was over at 10 o'clock in the evening. I had won. It was 97, 98%. All of the bookies all over the world were saying the election's over. They wouldn't even take bets on it. And then all of a sudden, around 11 o'clock, ballots start getting dropped. You ever see the graph where you go like this, and then it goes up to the sky? Tens of thousands of ballots were being illegally dropped. The machines are the worst. Dominion. Nobody even knows who owns it. These machines are controlling our country. So it was a rigged election. It was really a sham and a shame.
And then you have Bernie Sanders on the floor saying, we, along with Josh Hawley, there must be direct stimulus checks in this next package. So tomorrow, we will, of course, be covering this on our live morning show at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So please subscribe to the channel and make sure you set that little bell notification to join us first thing in the morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So this is one big piece of this playing out right now, whether or not the president is going to get stimulus checks somehow pushed through. I mean, it's interesting to think, like, what sort of clout does he have right now after losing an election? And by the way, tomorrow is when the election is certified. So the election will be certified, the electors will be certified, and then that's it. He is no longer, now we have officially Joe Biden as president-elect, not tomorrow. So you can continue all of these, frivolous lawsuits as much as you want. But where was the leadership on this from the to begin with? So he wants to blame Democrats. Meanwhile, Representative Katie Porter came out. She's been like a firebrand. She's ripping Mitch McConnell on this because it's been admitted that he's the reason this has been held up, that it never was able to be brought to the Senate floor because Mitch McConnell didn't bring it there. Mitch McConnell dragged his feet all summer long, put a pause on any kind of stimulus negotiations, wanted to see how the economy was unfolding, and was more interested in making sure that judges were placed than getting stimulus out to the American people. And now we're entering the darkest part of our winter. So here is Representative Katie Porter just a short time ago, taking it to Mitch McConnell. Listen.
The need for help is dire. There's an epidemic, not just of COVID-19, but of unemployment, of hunger, of housing insecurity. And a lot of these programs expire at the end of the year. The good news is that Democrats and many Republicans in the Senate and in the House have agreed on the broad outlines of a $900 billion deal. Nobody's happy with this. Democrats have been pushing for more than that to meet the need. We've been pushing for direct payments to families. But this is a compromise that will solve some of the most acute needs. The problem here is Mitch McConnell.
So speaking about Senator McConnell, you've been tweeting about him, and you've also gotten into some testy exchanges with the Treasury Secretary. But let's go to that tweet that you made about Senator McConnell. You tweeted as a part of a thread this: everyone at the negotiating table, include Senate Republicans, have agreed to a compromise, except one. Mitch McConnell is refusing to bring it to the floor unless it wipes away all COVID-related lawsuits filed that allege injury or death due to corporate negligence. So, Congresswoman, I decided to pull some of the biggest campaign donations to Senator McConnell in the 2020 election cycle. This is not at all an exhaustive list, but we have UPS, we have GEO Group, that's private prisons for everyone at home. We also have American Airlines, and they collectively donated about $200,000 in money to his campaign.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Oh, again. Why is he pushing for this corporate liability protection? Well, guess what? They've all donated money to him. Is this a surprise at all?
This year. I'm wondering if you think that he's just essentially trying to protect his financial interests in terms of campaign donations.
You think?
He's absolutely just kowtowing to his large corporate donors here. This is not a real problem. This is not what the American people are asking for. I'm talking to constituents and families every day in my community. They need help keeping food on the table. They need help keeping a roof over their head. They need to make sure the vaccine is safe and effective and is going to be distributed. Small businesses, especially the smallest businesses, need assistance. This is something that no real American is pushing for this. This is simply about doing the bidding, checking off an item that has long been on the wish list of the nation's largest corporations, who, by the way, very importantly, are already protected from liability so long as they act reasonably and follow reasonable safety precautions with regards to their customers, patients, and workers.
Yeah, it's covered under OSHA. So as long as they put forth safety precautions, they put up plastic, they have proper social distancing guidelines placed in their businesses, they're already protected. This is what Democrats have been arguing. Mitch McConnell wants to take it one step further. Why? Because he's receiving a wheelbarrow full of cash from these big corporate donors who want to make sure that they are even further protected and workers' rights are eroded once again. Further. And this is the old record playing over and over again. Joe Manchin, for his part, was asked about this question about President Trump. President Trump wanting to send out direct stimulus checks. Just send out a direct stimulus checks thing of $600, no unemployment benefits. Let's just get that out in the mail to people. And Joe Manchin had a thought or two about this from the president.
And let's, if you don't mind, a lightning round, quick questions, quick answers. President Trump says President Trump says, forget the unemployment benefits, just send a single stimulus check, $600 to each American. Is that a good idea?
It's a bad idea, and I hope he reevaluates that statement, because basically, if you're sending a stimulus check of $600 or whatever it may be, it was $1,200 before, you're sending it to people that still have a paycheck and still have a job. If you send a check to an unemployed person, you're sending a person that has no lifeline. It's done at the end of this month. They've got nothing. We're going to $300 extended for 16 weeks. I think that's much more reasonable, practical, and much needed.
Well, I can tell you that that's weak. And he kept referring during this interview that this is just a stopgap measure, that this is just an emergency bill. Why does it have to? Why are we labeling it that? Why are we just labeling this thing as like there's just an emergency bill? No, put together a massive stimulus package like other members, other European countries have done, like Japan has done. Don't just, you're now labeling it like it's suddenly an emergency package. Like there's suddenly a hurricane that roared through the Gulf of Mexico and now we need to step up and get, economic assistance down to Mississippi. No, we've known about this for months. This is not a sudden emergency. So to have unemployment cut from 600 down to 300, and then to also not have stimulus checks in that, in this bill that could help people pay for back rent and other items, it's ludicrous. I mean, he is right in some ways that sending out these checks to people that have jobs right now is maybe not the smartest targeting, perhaps. That didn't stop us before, and it actually helped people stay out of poverty. And actually, that little bit of a safety net helped people pay rent when, guess what, all the other government benefits dried up. So we're bickering about $1,200 when the very first question, by the way, the very first question that Brian Kilmeade on Fox and Friends asked President Trump at the Army-Navy game, that was where this interview took place.
When you look at this fight, though, you have 77% of Trump supporters who believe you won the election according to Fox.
I've heard actually much higher numbers than that.
There's a rally right now in Washington for that. Do you worry about the country being divided as if it goes to inauguration and they still feel that way and you still feel that way?
No, I worry about the country having an illegitimate president. That's what I worry about. A president that lost, and lost badly. This wasn't like a close election. You look at Georgia. We won Georgia big. We won Pennsylvania big. We won Wisconsin big. We won it big.
But your guys,
we won all of these states.
Do you think your legal team has proven that?
Well, we never get a chance to prove it because a judge will say, well, I'm sorry, you don't have standing. Like, how about me? Texas and all of these states, 18 or 19 altogether, they come in. Think how nice that is, where they actually come in and they say, we want to support you, sir, because you're important to this country. We want to support you. They go in and they...
$750 billion, and we're quibbling over $1,200 for Americans who can't pay their bills. Again, I go back to Olivia, the story that I told at the beginning. The 56-year-old woman who gets a letter in the mail after she received unemployment benefits. She was working at a school as a chef, helping to feed children. She's laid off, can't pay her bills, has a daughter at home who's now doing virtual learning. She has to now pay back the unemployment benefits assistance that she got. Let me know your thoughts on this. But more importantly, join me tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Subscribe to our channel because we are live. We do a whole live show, and I'd love to have you there. If you're new to the channel, please, I'd love to see you first thing in the morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Subscribe and turn on that little bell notification. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning on the day when we actually could see a stimulus bill. We'll see you bright and early tomorrow, everyone. Much love to all of you.